Hello, buongiorno and benvenuti to this very special edition of Seen Anything Good Lately, coming from the Lido in Venice at the 77th Venice Film Festival. It's the first film festival since the COVID pandemic and one of the only major artistic events happening anywhere in the world at the moment, so I've come to find out how it's working, what's showing, who's showing up, and if anyone's seen anything good lately.
I had a gulp of my red wine, and the end where he sort of throws his dad under the bus, spat my wine everywhere because I was so shocked.
I've been watching lots of John Ford films.
It was completely amazing. I cannot encourage people to see it enough.
First of all, I was so happy to be back in a theatre. I literally ran. I wanted to go there.
You heard there from actresses Stacy Martin and Romola Garai, director Roger Michell, and Italian star Pierre Francesco Favino. Just some of the people I got to talk to as the film world got back to a kind of normal. I mean, there weren't the usual Hollywood films there and the awards season kickstarters that we associate with Venice, but there were stars from Cate Blanchett and Tilda Swinton to Oliver Stone and Pedro Almodovar. And there were plenty of films playing to big audiences and plenty of reviews to file. It was, without doubt, a film festival. And I was there, viewing it through steamed-up glasses and breathing through a mask, but I was pretty happy to be here. It was quite a surprise and quite an immersion in humanity for the first time in a long, long time. But the bars and the restaurants were busy. There were Aperol Spritzes and spaghetti vongole and fritto misto, and the Venetians seem very happy to have us as they go about their business, going around the beach, sipping from their cocktails, zipping about on the boats at the weekend, and seeing some movies, many movies, in their home city, which was under such a strict lockdown, and felt like it was just enjoying a taste of freedom again, without so many tourists and cruise ships, and, sorry to say it, no Americans. It was quite nice. Let's hope it all lasts. But let's just go through a few of the people I'll be talking to on this edition of the show. Stacy Martin, the gorgeous actress who made her debut in Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac. She's here with French film Amant. She's bilingual and super cool. She was great in that film, so I got to catch up with her following her role as a juror in Venice last year. Romola Garai was here starring as Eleanor Marx, Karl Marx's daughter, in Miss Marx, and I got some time with her. Jim Broadbent gave a delightful performance in The Duke, so we'll hear from him and his director for that film, Roger Michell. And I've got Italian star Pierre Francesco Favino, one of Italy's major international stars these days, currently on the screens in the UK, starring in mafia epic The Traitor. So I wanted to talk to him for a little bit more of a local perspective, and I think that should do us. Oh, and I've also got an interview with Dennis Hopper and Orson Welles. Well, not me interviewing them interviewing each other in a new documentary by Philip Van Rimser called Hopper Welles. Well, I think that should do us. You'll forgive me if this is an extended episode. It is a bumper show. It's a Venice special, and it really was special being at Venice this year. So I'm going to bring you as much of the atmosphere and as many of the guests and films as I possibly can. So forgive me if we go on a little bit longer than usual. I'm sure you will bear with us because it's going to be great fun capturing all of that. We'll find out who was here. We'll find out about the new films premiering on the Lido, and of course we'll be asking if everyone's seen anything good lately. Before we hear from all my Venice star guests, I'll tell you if I've seen anything good lately at the Venice Film Festival. Well, of course I did. Look, I can't say there were films that blew everyone away. It's a difficult year, and many producers aren't risking putting their films here or couldn't travel with them. So usually we get a La La Land or a Gravity or a Shape of Water, and the awards season would be well underway. It wasn't anything quite like that this year. I suppose The Duke was the most mainstream success, and I really did like it. It was charming and funny and Ealing-like, the little man against the system, sweetly eccentric in a very British way. And Jim Broadbent is lovely in it. One of his best performances in a glittering career, I suppose. So I'm looking forward to speaking to him a bit later. I really liked Luca Guadagnino's documentary about shoemaker Salvatore Ferragamo, which was all about the shoes, which I didn't think would be very exciting. But it was, because it charts Hollywood history and Italian history through the story of this peasant kid who became a cobbler genius, and he fitted the feet of the early silent stars in Hollywood, from Mary Pickford and Lillian Gish to Valentino and Gloria Swanson and Douglas Fairbanks, and he shod all the epics and the western of the golden era of Hollywood. I didn't know this, and so it was fascinating. And as you'd imagine from the director of Call Me By Your Name and I Am Love, it's super stylish and beautifully put together, with contributions from Martin Scorsese and Deborah Landis and Manolo Blahnik and Grace Coddington. It's very cool and very fashionable and very enjoyable indeed. It's called Shoemaker of Dreams by Luca Guadagnino. There was an Indian film called The Disciple, which really stuck with me. It's about a rather dull man trying very hard to become a revered classical music singer in Mumbai, despite very little encouragement from his guru. Initially, I thought, well, it's not a great hit, this film, but The Disciple really stuck with me. I was really impressed by it and its director and the whole look of it. A really great take on modern India and a great take on failure. Making that dramatic's not easy, and he did so brilliantly. I was very moved by a documentary called Final Account about the last surviving everyday perpetrators of Nazism in Germany. It was obsessively made by Luke Holland over a number of years and finally put together and received with ovations here. I thought I'd go along and see my friend Luke and congratulate him on the movie. I had the pleasure of getting to know him quite well over the years. We were on the board of the UK Jewish Film Festival together, and he was always turning up talking about this project he was making, and it looked like it was really taking a toll on him over the years, on his health and etc. And he thought he'd never get it made. So to see it selected in the festival, I thought, brilliant, I'll go along. And here was this really gripping, powerful documentary about Germans admitting guilt from a long time ago. You know, just their part in how Nazism was implemented and the Holocaust was implemented. Their part in a rather banal, functory way. And Luke wasn't there. Luke had died. Luke died about 7 or 8 weeks ago of cancer, age 71. I didn't know that he died. His wife and his grown-up children were there to see this film finally, his life's work finally on the big screen, finally getting standing ovations that Luke so would have loved to have known about. It was really emotional, and that's going to stay with me for a long time. The film is Final Account, and it really is Luke's masterwork as a documentary maker. So that's what I saw. Here's a smattering of some international critics and film journalists who I talked to at the festival, and I asked them, as they were all asking each other over dinner and over drinks, seen anything good lately?
I'm Stephanie Bunbury. I'm a reporter for the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age in Australia. Today, I saw Quentin Dupier's Mandibles, which is about a giant fly. It is hilarious.
Have you seen anything good lately, John?
Yeah, you, Jason. You're gorgeous. Hello, I'm Raphael Abraham of the Financial Times. I surprised myself by seeing and really liking The Duke.
I've seen great things lately. I saw Mandibules questa mattina, and it was a brisk 77 minutes of crazy Dumb and Dumber en français.
I'm Andreas Wiseman. I'm the international editor of Deadline Hollywood. And I was going to say apples as well, but I'll give you a different one. Luca Guadagnino's movie, the director of Call Me By Your Name, and he has a documentary about the Italian shoe designer Salvatore Ferragamo.
Hi, my name is Nick. I'm here writing for Variety. I mean, I've been watching stuff with my daughter, and we finally caught up with the Elton John movie, Rocket Man, and we really enjoyed that.
Things that have really stayed with me have been Luke Holland's Final Account, this kind of devastating documentary about these members of the Nazi youth.
My name is Brian Viner. Yeah, I'm the Daily Mail's film critic.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes, well, we bear these crosses. I very much enjoyed The Duke.
I really, really enjoyed the Pedro Almodovar short, The Human Voice. It's an adaptation of a John Cocteau short play that takes place almost entirely in the span of one apartment, and it's about a woman who is completely and utterly alone and adrift, separated from the rest of the world, trying to connect.
I'm Jeffrey McNabb. I write for The Independent and Screen International, and I've seen a film that I very much liked, which was a film called Apples. But it's a film that's set in the middle of a pandemic. Instead of getting coronavirus, you get amnesia and you can't remember anything.
Would you rather get amnesia than coronavirus?
Well, if my experiences were similar to those of the guy in the film, I think amnesia probably would be slightly better.
I watched the third season of Dark, but I fell asleep last night. I was a bit drunk, actually.
Hope you got a flavour of some of the films and some of the atmosphere of the Venice Film Festival, which was in full swing, as you can hear. There were interviews everywhere, there were junkets, and I was lucky enough to go and meet Stacy Martin, who's fast becoming a muse for film and fashion in Paris and in London and at major film festivals. She was on the jury here last year, returning this year to star in what I think is her best role yet. It's called Amant, or Lovers, a lethal love triangle thriller starring Stacy, Pierre and Benoit Magimel, major French stars, all about a woman whose drug dealer boyfriend and mad first love disappears suddenly. And years later, now she's married to a solid, rich man, she runs into her ex, played by Pierre and is consumed by passion again. Here's what Stacy had to say about being back in Venice, about her new film, and what she's been watching. Stacy, welcome.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you.
It's nice to see you.
You were on the jury last year at Venice here.
I was, yeah. So it's really nice to come back, and this time on the other side. Although I am quite sad I won't be able to watch how many films there are.
You loved it, didn't you?
I loved it. Yeah. I mean, I could just sit inside and watch films every day. So that was quite wonderful.
And to get dressed up and go out every night and kind of do the...
We didn't. We were very serious, and we were told don't go to parties and don't talk about films, and which is totally fine. I was like, I'm going to watch films, order room service. It's kind of what I do at home, so...
that must be a big difference between last year's festival and then this year's festival. Although, in a way, the way you describe the jury duty, it's slightly isolated anyway. It's slightly kind of locked down.
I'm quite a homebody, so I think it's definitely probably easier for me than maybe someone who goes out and is very sociable. But it's definitely just even arriving, you definitely feel that things are calmer. The organization's very intense. Everyone's very clear on what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and I think that's needed. And there's also the other side of it just being so exciting and full of hope and joy that a festival is still happening, and it's just, a nice celebration.
It is a good celebration, and it's a great start for your film, in which I have to say, I think it's one of your best performances of your career.
Wow. Thank you.
I think it's going to send you off into a whole new stratosphere.
Thank you.
If I may say.
It's definitely very different from anything I've done in the past. And I think that's very much thanks to Nicole Garcia. I think the way that she films actresses is very peculiar. There's something quite intense and quite raw in what she brings out of people, whether it's Marion Cotillard in From the Land of the Moon or Catherine Deneuve in Place Vendôme. There's something quite unhinged and quite fascinating.
Was it because you are the female element here in between the two battling males? Did it help to have a female director? She seemed to be on your side. If we're on anyone's side, I think it's your side.
Yeah. I think just having Nicole as an incredible director was really just what I took from it the most. Obviously, I'm sure there are elements of her being a woman that help, but I don't think they were as strong. I was such a big admirer of her work before, that to be able to explore and to try things, and she can be quite tough, which I really loved, and she would really push boundaries of what is expected from a female character, which I think is very important. and she would never really settle. And I think it's quite refreshing to have to.
When you say push boundaries of a female character, there's physical boundaries because there's a lot of love making and a lot of physicality.
It's not that much love making in this film though, which I think is quite interesting because it shows that love is also something so untangible. It's something that you feel in between someone, but it's hard to quantify.
Oh, but it starts with the most gorgeous, sort of physically sort of nuzzling role.
Yeah.
Like, it's not love making, as like it's not sex, let's call it, but it is
post-coital.
Yeah, it's physical. it's sort of sniffing, smelling.
Well, it's very much. I think it's everyone's had this first love, this memory of your first love, it being this very carnal, physical, breathtaking experience, and that person, you'll always remember them, that relationship that you had, that you say, oh, this person was my first love. It's something that we all have, and I think Nicole really showed that through the cinematography, where, like you said, it's all about the skin and the textures and this, rather than seeing the physical act of love. Personally, I don't think showing people having sex is that interesting on screen because it kills.
And we've all seen you have it, do it, love.
Yes,
We've had enough for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I think you want to keep the mystery in it.
No, that's what I loved about it, that physicality, when you nuzzle into his neck and you just kind
and it says a lot more about a relationship.
But it also, when you then see him again, not to do a spoiler, when you see him again, that physical judder, I thought that was fabulously played, how you hid behind the tree, how you, we saw it play out, all of this kind of shot right through your soul.
That person you dread to find, and suddenly you see them. And,
dread yet.
And you're excited, but you're heartbroken at the same time. And you know from that moment on that she knows, she sees him, she knows her life is not going to be the same now because there's no way that she'll be able to avoid him or no go and see him.
Where did you have lockdown? Were you in France or in England?
I was in England, yeah. I live in England.
How was that? Were you all right?
I was fortunate to actually be able to enjoy the lockdown. One of the things that I really loved about it is just being able to switch off and not having any outside pressure of working, of doing being at events or doing this or doing that. There was a real sense of just peace, and then obviously things sort of reopened and reality comes back in very quickly.
What did you do, Stacy Martin? Have you seen anything good lately?
I've seen a lot, but whether or not I remember what I've seen is very different. I currently just finished Selling Sunset, which was incredible.
That's a property show, right?
Yes, that's a sort of reality TV mixed with property showings. It's great.
In big LA houses.
In LA houses, and they're obviously all from celebrities, but you never know who. But then the drama between the estate agents is quite fantastic. The sense of fashion is pretty insane, and it was sort of an amazing binge watch. What else? There was Succession, which is very different, but that was incredible.
Did you watch 1 and 2? I binged 1 and 2.
I'm terrible at pacing myself, so I think I watched the 2 seasons in about 4 days. It was something quite dangerous.
That's a lot of bile. I
thought it was so great. The acting was amazing, and you despise every character in Succession, but at the same time, you want all of them to win, and you love them. And I thought it was so wonderfully acted. It was one of those TV shows. I thought there's only a show like that once in a while, and that was definitely one that for me stuck out.
Yeah, I was with you too because I'd missed it, and I thought I better catch up with it.
Yeah.
And lockdown was perfect. Every night,
great.
every night. Let's have some more.
Next episode, yes.
Even though they're so hateful.
It's so dark, and I mean, then the last episode is just. I remember I was crying because I was so upset, and then I had a gulp of my red wine, and the end where he sort of throws his dad under the bus. Spat my wine everywhere because I was so shocked. I was like, and I was crying, and it was just, it's, only great shows can do that.
You've got red wine stains all over the place now.
It was worth it for Succession. It was worth it. I mean, if I could even just have a cameo on that show and just be at the back watching them, my career would end,
Well,
I'd
we'll
be
let
very
them know.
happy.
What can we see you? I mean, this was a nice surprise seeing you selected at Venice for this one. I didn't know you'd made this. What have you got some work stored up, or is it now starting again?
I've just finished. So we were finishing a Netflix and BBC show called The Serpent. So we just finished that now, which is very exciting.
So like a lot of like an 8-parter.
It's a mini-series, and it's based on Charles Sabraj, who was a serial killer during the 60s, 70s, and it tells his story and how he came to be, basically.
Is it US or British set?
We filmed in Thailand for a lot of it, and then we finished due to COVID, we had to go to Tring to be in Bangkok. It was great.
But you've got that in the bag, so that's going to come out. That's exciting.
Done, yeah. And then there's a film called Louis Wayne by Will Sharp that should be coming out. We finished before lockdown. That should be coming out. I mean, I'm hoping next year. We just, who knows now these
So you've
days.
done some series. You're doing some Netflix now. So that's quite different pacing, quite different.
Very different. Yeah, very different. And at the same time, just quite. I remember seeing the monitor one day and thinking, oh, it is a Netflix show. It had that very sort of Netflix image, which in a very beautiful and cinematic way. It was quite exciting, but I just loved the project. And then suddenly looking at the monitor, I was like, oh wow, I'm doing this. This is happening, Stacey.
Someone's going to be binging Stacy Martin somewhere, like
not me, that's for sure.
No, those are the ones you don't binge.
Yeah, those ones I don't binge.
But I think it's really exciting what's going to happen with this one. Do you see a difference there when you're doing a television one like that to doing, I suppose, what's like almost a classic French film that you're in Amont?
Definitely. It's a very different setting, especially French films are set up very differently. And even there's just so many more films made in France than there are in England. That's just a reality. But I think with TV, it's just the pace of it is definitely faster. Whereas with, for example, this film with Nicole, she would arrive on set and not quite know what shots she wanted. And it was so exciting seeing her figuring it out and then trying something new and then saying, oh no, actually you're sitting down here, but let's go outside and you'll be walking. And for me as an actor, that's utter joy. For lighting, it's a bit different, but with Netflix and a TV series, you have to, time is ticking. So
do you get great outfits in the Netflix one as well?
I do, yeah. It was a period piece, so it was really exciting. It was really great to be able to build something and just have that reference. I mean, you can really go and have fun with it.
And one of the things about lockdown is that I don't know about you, but I was in my jogging bottoms quite a lot of the time. I don't know if you were. I can't imagine you out of glamorous outfits.
I know.
Is it nice to suddenly get dressed again?
It is. It's nice to suddenly be able to do something on a project that you've loved. And I think it's the same with everyone who's come to Venice. It's that sort of, we've all come because we love cinema and we love our job. There's a true passion for it. So it's quite a celebratory moment, I think, especially, with everything going on. So I think it is nice to make it special.
And what are you wearing today?
I am wearing Louis Vuitton.
Very nice.
Yes.
I like it.
Thank you.
Well, there's a red carpet to come and there's everything to come, so more outfits.
Yes,
hooray.
exactly.
But I say that because she did look fantastic. I think it's important to your character in this film, always bringing a different, look to suit her emotions.
Yeah, it was really important that we had different phases and almost different identities, because she really went through being one person to finding herself again. And I think the importance of the epilogue at the end, where she's emancipated herself from relationships, from love, and she's finally herself. That was also quite an important creation that we had with Nicole.
Well, I'm very glad that I've seen something good lately, which is your film, Amont in Venice. And thank you for sharing your selling sunsets with us.
You might hate me after watching it, but
I'm
willing to take the risk.
You just want to be on it one day, don't you? Come round
I don't think I could, but I definitely want to watch more of it.
I'll let them know again. Succession and Selling Sunset. You're ready and available. Stacey, lovely to see you. Enjoy Venice. Lovely to have you back here. Lovely to be back here, I guess, for all of us.
I don't know. I feel everyone's just kind of looking at each other going, hi.
This
is nice. We're here.
Are we allowed?
Are we allowed? Are we allowed to talk? Yeah. No, I think everyone feels like everyone's quite cautious and mindful.
I know. I feel a bit distanced from shouting.
Well, Next year.
Next year. Lovely to see you.
Touch
Yeah, I like that film very much. You know me, I'm a sucker for a bit of French film, and I'm sure we'll see more of it at a later date. It's called Amant from Nicole Garcia, starring Stacy Martin, or Stacy Martin. One film we'll definitely hear more of is The Duke, which was a bit of a balm, really, giving Venice a laugh and a lift, and brought to light a story from the British headlines for a whole new generation. It's about a bloke called Kempton Bunton, a rather strange, eccentric chap from Newcastle, who in 1961 stole Goya's Duke of Wellington from the National Gallery and hid it in his cupboard. It was a headline story all throughout the 60s, and even featured as a gag in James Bond's Dr. No. It's hanging in the villain's lair, and Sean Connery walks past it, the painting's there, and he says, "Oh, there you are." It's a joke I never understood before, and neither did Roger Michell, the director of Notting Hill and Enduring Love, and Louis Kent, when I asked him. He's teaming up again with Louis Kent star Jim Broadbent, and he's given Jim Broadbent a brilliant role in this, a role to remember. And I got to talk to them right at the start, just before they were lining up to go and see the premiere of their film, and I wondered if they had actually heard of any of this story before. Thank you for coming to Venice.
Yeah,
Was it a big decision, Jim?
It was a bit, yeah. You've got vulnerable people at home, so you've got to be apprehensive about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you always know, Roger, that it was going to be, I'm coming to Venice, my film's selected, I'm going to come?
I mean, I was waiting to see whether Italy was going to fall into the 2-week quarantine, because I can't go back. I've got too many childcare issues to be able to go back and do 2 weeks quarantine.
I know. Well, we're here, though.
Yeah, we're here.
Which we celebrate. And the Duke is fabulous. Really enjoyed that. Really hit the sweet spot, I think, this morning.
Good. Which one did you go to, the first one?
I saw the one at 11:15.
Okay. And it played well, did it?
It played really well. Yeah, people were laughing in the right places, I think.
See, I've never seen it with an audience, so I can't wait to see it tonight with an audience.
How did it come to you as a story?
Through Nikki Bentham, the producer, and I'd never heard of this story, and in fact I don't think Jim had either. No. And
yet it's clearly quite a well-known story.
Well, it was in 1963 because they put it into Dr. No.
Yeah.
But had you heard of it?
I'd never heard of it, no. And I didn't. I'd seen Dr. No many times, and I didn't know that was the joke.
I do remember that bit of Dr. No. It's sort of weird, isn't it?
So that's in the script. You didn't put that bit in.
That's in the script, so we didn't drop that into Dr. No. No, that's actually from Dr. No. Yeah.
And you didn't know the gentleman at all?
No. And I mean, I'm of an age where I might just have been, I suppose about 11, 12 while it was all unfolding, but I obviously wasn't reading the papers or absorbing them. But I suppose people a bit older than me will remember it a bit more.
I quite like that Patty doing this. They did misbehaviour. So this ripped from the headlines element of these kind of quaint stories. I mean, it seemed to me it had something of the Ealing comedy to it.
Yeah.
Was that one of your models, Roger?
Yeah, it's like an Ealing comedy, and it's a social comedy. It's about a small man speaking truth to power. It ticks lots of those boxes. But it's also like those great, early 60s films from the North by Carol Rice and Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, The Sporting Life. It's very much that world as well. So I wanted to find a line which straddled both those great British traditions, the sort of vaguely social realist thing, alongside what's evidently a comedy of manners which shouldn't be taken too seriously.
No, and a rather a sort of lovely love story in a way. The marriage is what keeps. I mean, without the marriage, he'd be in right trouble, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, he was a appalling husband. Blatantly lied to his wife at any given moment, but clearly totally besotted, and she put up with him. So.
I love it when they put the picture up of the actual gentleman at the end. I
like that.
But it couldn't be anyone else but you.
Oh, Roger. It looks like that, more like Roger, but without the beard. But I identified with him completely from the word go. I thought I'll love playing him.
I said I wouldn't make the film without Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no point in making that film without Jim Broadbent. And thank God Jim Broadbent felt the same way about it.
And could you do what about the accent? It's hard on the Newcastle one, I always
think. Yeah. So there was a lot of that was my main struggle in the whole thing, like to get that reasonably convincing. Yeah. But but then that informed the whole character anyway, and his manner and his delivery, And I think Richard, he probably has a good ear for writing dialogue that has a sort of Geordie vernacular. So that informed the whole thing.
There is nothing more powerful than when a community discovers what it cares about. And when a man accepts our essential interdependence, in that moment he or she becomes a woman or a man, as the case may be.
How many have you got?
The petition's only one part of the campaign.
3.
Oh, we've just set up.
Kempton Bunton. That's not even a real name.
Rome wasn't built in a day, Jackie. But then again, I wasn't on that particular job.
Oh, hello. Didn't know you were political, Jackie Bunton.
Yeah, it's me dad. It's the latest campaign.
Me nan would love a telly.
Why don't you sign my petition then, love?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'm going to ask you two also a question that I have to ask if you're coming on my show. Have you seen anything good lately? What have you been watching, Jim Broadbent?
What have I been watching?
I've been watching lots of John Ford films.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been amazed by them, utterly amazed.
The Westerns?
Yeah, the Westerns. And I thought they were going to be one thing and they were completely different. They're unbelievably well acted, they're charming,
really?
They've got huge
think
heart.
It was epic searchers type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're most amazing films, and I take my Stetson off to him. What an incredible director. So that's been one of my lockdown projects.
Wow, I always thought that Roger Michell would not, I've never seen, I can't imagine you making a Western, getting you out of London.
I could make one now. Now I've watched all those John Ford movies. Yeah.
I did like The Plot Against America. That was... I did get through to the end of that. But
you watched that Iraq doco? That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fantastic.
It is absolutely.
Oh, I don't know that one.
That's on BBC, I think.
Yeah.
The Plot Against Iraq, isn't it?
Plot Against Iraq.
Similar title.
And The Duke should be out in March next year. Bit of a wait for it, I know, but you'll definitely be hearing all about it. There was more British history in Miss Marx on the Lido, which starred Romola Garai as Karl Marx's daughter Eleanor, who took on her father's legacy and fought for the workers and for female equality, all while marrying a philandering scoundrel called Edward, who no one seemed to like, except Eleanor. Poor Eleanor. It's a period piece set in velvety, dimly lit parlours and factories, and it plays with the genre and bursts into camera confessions and punk rock from LA band Downtown Boys. It's a heady, strange mix, perhaps not always successful, but it is great to see Romola Garai getting such a meaty and difficult role, which of course she carries off with her usual gusto and clear intelligence. So, of course, I invited her on to the show to celebrate Venice. Romola Garai.
Hi, Jason. Good to see you.
Really good to see you. Congratulations. You're here with Miss Marx.
I'm here with Miss Marx, yes.
Which is, so beautiful because it's by an Italian director as well.
Yes, so it's this slightly unusual situation where it's a biopic about an English woman, kind of in the tradition of like a period biopic, which we make a few of, but it's an Italian film, it's Italian money, all made here. We were in Cinecittà in Rome, and then we did a couple of weeks in Turin, and the Piedmont is kind of in the background of the Western scenes, and then we did a couple of weeks in Belgium at the end.
And how was your Italian throughout?
Terrible throughout, yeah. And my overbearing RP British accent cuts through the gorgeous Italian in a way that makes it painful for me to say anything in Italian.
So even the scenes in Highgate Cemetery weren't in Highgate Cemetery?
That's right, yeah. That was in Liège in Belgium.
Oh, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, yeah.
Have you done the pilgrimage? Have you been to Highgate Cemetery?
Yeah, I did actually. So there's loads and loads in the public domain about Eleanor Marx, all her letters. There's 2 major biographies. Then obviously you can go and do the pilgrimage, like you say, to Highgate and, lay a rose at his grave and all the rest of it. So, yeah, no, we went there and went to the house in Primrose Hill where they lived when they were growing up.
So, quite familiar territory, really, but in North London. But also, was she familiar territory too? Did you know about her before?
Not at all, really. To my embarrassment, because we did lots of reading around suffragette when that came out, and she was, a prominent part of the women's movement. Her name had come up in the research, but I mean, embarrassingly, I really knew almost nothing about her at all.
She wasn't quite a suffragette. She wasn't a suffragette.
No, so she was a socialist, a committed socialist, and the women's movement at the time had a kind of slightly distanced relationship. They didn't want to ally themselves closely with any political party because they were trying to, obviously make it a non-party political issue. And socialism was obviously the kind of, the cause of her life. She did a lot to bring conversations about feminism into the socialist conversation and issues to do with child labour as well.
What did you think of her? Now you've got to know her, now you've got to play her. I did know the story about her because on my radio show, actually, my historian came on and talked about her, and I was like, my God, this is fascinating. This should be a movie.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later we leave.
Now it is, yeah.
Because, she had this, I don't know what, a weak spot for Edward. I don't know what, but isn't that just normal? Is that just a human flaw?
I think it's a human flaw that there's something we all have. There's a division between our intellectual ideals and our lives and our loves and our soul, and every human being can relate to that. I think it was enhanced with her because she was her father's favourite child. He was this enormous figure, and she felt the duty to continue his work as a kind of overbearing, lifelong obsession, really, to ensure that his work and the message of communism didn't die with him. I'm just guessing here, but I think what happened was that she didn't ever emotionally uncouple herself from her father and his legacy, and then maybe some of that got misdirected onto Edward, who was also a socialist campaigner, and so she had a kind of father-husband sort of confusion going on, which made it impossible for her to leave what was clearly a terrible marriage.
Is this you working? Because when you play someone, it's different from actually reading the history and the facts. You do have to sort of flesh it out. You have to sort of put your own psychological spin in order to give yourself some motivations in various places.
Yeah, and the thing is, of course, you don't, you develop your own opinions. They don't always correspond with the script, and obviously you're essentially kind of confined to the script that you have. And then sometimes interesting things come out of that conflict. And if there's something in the script you disagree with, you have a conversation about that, and then you think, well, why is it that I resist that idea, and what's that to do with? And I think sometimes I did feel like when I was reading script and when I was playing the character, very frustrated by the kind of, the way that the scenes didn't allow enough kind of explosion of emotion, and it felt quite restrained sometimes. But, the fact is, that probably was the true condition of her life, and I was kind of experiencing that emotionally on some level, because I think she was not able to really understand and address that.
I don't know. I've seen it. But it's pretty emotional.
I run through some light emotional changes.
Well, she does quite a lot of close-ups on you. Your director Suzanne. It's quite there. And so
it's right.
Every little tremor of Romola's gorgeous little face.
Romola's aging face, I suppose. Yeah.
It was a great part to get, though.
Amazing part to get. I mean, I feel so lucky. Actors wait their whole lives, you job along on these jobs that pay the bills, and then, you sometimes never get to play a role like this. I feel incredibly lucky to have done it.
Yeah, and it starts on your face, it's on, and then you get to dance punk.
Yeah, punk rock dancing at the end.
I haven't seen you dance since Van and Nights.
No, I think people watching that film will think maybe, watching the Miss Marks may think that they never want to see anyone.
How did you come up with that dance?
Well, I mean, actually, the whole film was incredibly constructed, Every day we got to set, she'd set up the camera in advance. We were told where to stand. It was different from the English tradition where the actors tend to kind of lead, It was completely oppositional to that. It was entirely about the framing. So that was 99% of the time, that was what happened on the film, except for one scene where I had to dance to this punk rock song, like in my underwear. And then she just said, just dance. I mean, I didn't have any kind of choreography or of anything. It was absolutely the most embarrassing thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Because I know you can dance, like, rather daintily, should you be required
the thing is, I thought, oh, wow, I'm probably going to look, like, really amazing and like I've had some kind of dance experience. And then we watched it on that massive screen last night, and I was like, I look not only like a terrible dad dancer, but also completely insane.
But I think it works, though, because it is a dance of anger and freedom, and it shouldn't be unscripted, because she's all sort of completely
I think Susanna felt like it would be hard for her to, there's nothing in the historical records to suggest that her and Edward ever really addressed the kind of fundamental problems of their relationship, his infidelity, his problems with money, and the fact that there was clearly this kind of deep inequality in their marriage. I think she felt uncomfortable writing that scene when there wasn't that in the history book. So she took that kind of rage that you would want to see in a protagonist kind of expressing about the situation and put it into that moment.
And how are you about being in Venice? Were you, as soon as it was selected, you were like, I'm coming, whatever happens?
I mean, I would have got into a suitcase and spent the entire time in the hold in order to get to Venice. I've never been to Venice before. It's my first time at the festival. I can't believe it. Everyone else is walking around, I think, you know, slightly sad that it's not the usual Venice, you know, that there's less people and all the rest of it. But I have nothing to compare it to, so I'm just completely delighted.
It's actually pretty close to.
Oh,
it's
good.
Just a little bit less people, fewer people.
But that's quite nice.
Which is quite nice.
Yeah.
But it is. It's surprising. I mean, I've been here a few days, and every day I'm like, crikey, there's more people. It's the most people I've seen.
Picking up, definitely.
I've not seen this many people.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. Since
no, God,
lockdown,
no.
I've just
Yeah,
been,
absolutely.
You know, the kids, and that's about it. You know?
Yeah.
So, but were you busy during lockdown?
So I was kind of busy through choice, just because I just can't do nothing. I just psychologically just like find that just like the worst kind of horror.
Yeah.
So we were at home. Have young children, so you know we were doing the homeschooling, but half the day I was just in the office like trying to write. I mean, write anything. Like I'll probably end up throwing most of it away, but I just couldn't sit with myself for like, you know, or relax. People kept telling me to relax. I was like, I can't imagine anything worse. I just need to be distracted.
But you made a film, haven't you? Last
I
time
made
we
a
spoke,
film.
you were making a film. You'd written the script. You made me a horror film.
Yeah, I made a horror film, and so that was in Sundance, which, you know, was absolutely the like final moments before the world changed and we went into full lockdown. So I've had this quite weird thing where I've been bookended by my film coming out at Sundance and then this film being in Venice.
So, and we're going to see that?
So it came out in America during the lockdown. So it played like at some drive-ins. So the theatrical release was quite kind of affected by COVID. But so it was on streaming platforms, obviously. But there were some cinemas that played it. And then the UK release, I'm hoping, will be probably November time, like a bit later this year. It's called Amulet.
Amulet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're in it as well?
No.
Just directing?
Just directing.
Look at you. Now you're at Auteurs Film Festival because you're on Auteur now.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, if you've made a horror film, I don't know, people are always a bit like, sort of an auteur, maybe, yeah.
Well, that's brilliant, though. I know how hard you work to get it done and trying to find a way to get yourself into that game.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant.
It's really difficult, and you know, it's something that like I made my short film when I was 30, so it was 8 years ago, and then the transition into making a feature is really difficult. And I kind of thought, because of my background as an actress, that I would, you know, make that transition smoothly, but the kind of mid-budget films that I predominantly made as an actor have kind of disappeared, or you need like a massive star in it, or, you know, it needs to be about someone that everybody knows, like Queen Victoria or something. So the scripts that I was writing and the things that I was interested in, it just wasn't pushing forward. And then somebody said to me, look, if you make a genre film and you make it for less than £1 million, that you can do. So then I had to sit down and write a horror film, which was something of a new thing for me.
Genre of natural or choice.
Well, I've always loved horror. It didn't feel like an unnatural home for me in terms of my taste. I would say I'm probably more of a fan of the kind of auteur-y end of the horror spectrum, but I do love horror films, but I'd never been in one as an actor. So, you know, being on a set and doing special effects and visual effects and, you know, working with blood pumps and puppets and like that, I had absolutely no background in at all. So it was a swift learning curve.
Wow. So I'm going to ask you, because you're on the show, you seen anything good lately, Romola?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, what did we watch in lockdown? Well, we started off trying to be very good and watch like Sight and Sound's 100 best films. Like everybody, we had all of these ideas. So we watched Floating Weeds, which I'd never seen before. And because it's about a company of actors and, you know, it's about an older actor returning to this town that he played in 20 years before, I think it really affected me and my husband, and we were sort of like absolutely inconsolable throughout the whole film. It was completely amazing. I cannot encourage people to see it enough. It was amazing. It was my first Ozu and I was blown away. It was an amazing film. And we also watched Chernobyl, which is for me the best piece of television I've ever seen. It was my chin was on the floor every single second at the acting, at the directing. I went to bed every night churned up in a way I mean, it was just mind-blowing.
I had that. People come on the show and that's the one they say.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost sort of artistically way beyond anything else, and I haven't seen it yet.
It is a classic of television that I think is going to be hard for people to match for generations. It's extraordinary.
And you know some people in it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who did I? Yeah, I mean, I've met some of the actors in it, but nobody I didn't know anyone really well who was in it. Yeah.
Really great mates.
Not great mates. No, massive great mates. But yeah, I'd met some of the actors who were in it, and oh my God, Jessie Buckley is so incredible in it. It's an extraordinary performance. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I must catch that up. The really classy people on the show, they recommend that one.
Yeah.
And what about Rubbish? You've been watching Rubbish?
Yeah, well, I don't know if other people had this. We sat down every night and just wanted to watch comedies. Yeah. That's all we wanted to watch. Half-hour comedies. So we watched some amazing comedies. We rewatched Toast, which is our sort of go-to thing that we always love. We really love Dave. Did you see that? We love Dave. Oh my God, I thought that was amazing.
I thought the final episode of that was one of the
Totally, it was extraordinary, wasn't it? And the episode where you sort of, you know, it was a really important episode, wasn't it, to kind of segue into the life of Gator and his, you know, so you got a perspective of the African American character on, and it was just, that was amazing. I really, really loved that. And then we just watched the second season of There She Goes.
Is that the one with David Tennant?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, have you ever seen it?
I saw the first, and I found it very difficult.
Yeah,
because it's supposed to be difficult.
Yeah,
and cute and heartbreaking at the same time. And it was billed as a comedy. I was like, yeah, but this isn't comedy.
It's not really a comedy in the way that, but at the same time, the desperation of it is just, it's so comforting in a way, because it kind of, it's something that really strips away the human condition, and it doesn't try and be uplifting in a way that sometimes film, because of the structure of it, they always have to tack that on at the end. But it makes no attempt to do that, which is really brilliant.
Hardcore and down and honest, I suppose it's honest.
Really honest and really bold, Oh, and Mrs. America. I really, really loved Mrs. America.
The styling on that was pretty
it was incredible, And I love, actually, I'm not really into short stories or short form, really, but the fact that they switched character was really brilliant, because, you know, you can't do a story about the women's movement experience with suffragette that just, you know, tells one perspective on 50% of the world's population, and they got around that really well by giving every episode a different perspective on the women's movement.
I know, you were like, oh great, it's Rose Burns.
Yeah, exactly. And Kate Blanchett.
And it was an interesting one. And Kate Blanchett was here. You might see.
Yeah, I did. I saw her from afar, and it was amazing.
Love you, Miss America. But it's great because it, in a way, you're not expecting her to be the hero. Yeah, because she's sort of. Slightly the baddie in it, if you could say, if you come from a liberal perspective, you're like, how come the hero is not supporting the women's movement?
Yeah, no, but I thought it was really important and impressive that they did that, because in these politically very divided times, you know, there is this kind of thing where in our world the kind of narrative lockdown occurs, where, you know, there isn't the embracing of kind of a range of political perspectives, and to have a character who was like fighting tooth and claw to retain a family structure that completely defined her and she felt was under threat was really important, I thought.
Like a certain Miss Marks that we know.
Like a certain Miss Marks, yes,
Brilliantly brought together.
Neatly tied together,
That's what we do on this show. Romola, beautiful to see you.
Yeah, so great to see you. Thanks so much. Cheers, thanks for having me.
Now that we're here, we definitely need to get some Italian perspective on the whole thing. So I turn to Pierre Francesco Favino, one of Italy's most international of actors. He's worked on Hollywood hits such as Night at the Museum. He was Christopher Columbus, if you care to look. He was in Angels and Demons, Narnia, and he's been in homegrown titles such as Romanzo Criminale, Subura, and The Keys to the House, big Italian hits. And he's here in Venice, starring in a film called Padre Nostro. But he's also on our screens in The Traitor, a mafia epic by Marco Bellocchio, which was released in the UK during lockdown by Modern Films and is now available streaming and is fantastic, and I really urge you to see that. He plays the Italian informant, the mafia informant, Tommaso Buscetta, a really big sort of thuggish guy who turns tables on the mafia. Get to see that. He's brilliant in that. So I caught up with him here in Venice to find out about being in his home nation's festival, to find out more about himself, to find out the screen heroes he takes inspiration from, and to find out Why you speak such good English?
I'm an actor, never believe me. I'm a monkey.
This is all a script.
No, I lived in London for a while, and then I've always been fond of England and the English culture. So since I was a kid, I had the chance to learn English, and I have lots of friends.
Where did you live in London?
Well, different areas. So Knightsbridge at first, and then I moved to Camden Town, so it was like completely the
because
opposite way.
you've got the posh Knightsbridge accent.
But I just put it up, if you allow me. No, I could speak different ways if you want me. But hey, man, don't let me do that. No, but I'm really fond of London. I love it.
Yeah, well, we have seen you in Hollywood films and British films as well. And I was wondering if it's different acting in Italian to it is in English.
Well, of course, when you play with your mother tongue, there's something in your flesh, in your blood that has the possibility to spring out without you wanting to. So now I have started to have the feeling that I don't have to translate it into my mind when I speak or when I am. So as an actor, it starts to give me a body, even when I speak in English now. But it took me a while, and I think it's also, it's different. Every language has its own structure. And it's not just how well you speak it or what's the sound of the language, it's what you mean by using some words. And English people are very good at this. So we always need hands as Italians or body to explain what we want to say. But it's not just a formal thing. I think it's the way you think.
Yeah, and we English, we say one thing and underneath it means
exactly,
totally.
Which is pretty much what we might do when we use our dialects or accents, depending on what you do. But for example, in the traitor, there are different layers of communications.
Of course, because you have the mafia code, and then you have
but also the
Sicilian
body
dialect
language and the body language. I mean, I wanted to learn it, and it's like never ending. It's a never ending vocabulary.
Well, all this is working well on radio, but it's the face gestures.
We are waving our hands at the moment, but no, but it's not just that. It's like the way you sit, the way you use words in a not proper way. I've understood that the codes are very rich.
Yeah, interesting. I'm going to ask you, since the name of the show is "Seen Anything Good Lately?"
Yeah.
Have you been watching anything good recently?
Well, I had the chance to get back to the cinema, so I wanted to see Tenet, and I enjoyed it because first of all, I was so happy to be back in a theatre.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to enjoy it as a kid. So that's the last movie that I saw.
So you went to the cinema when
I ran. I literally ran. I wanted to go there, and so when I had the chance to mask on, I did that, and I'm happy I did it.
In Rome?
That was in Tuscany, because I'm actually shooting a movie in Tuscany. So when I knew that there was a cinema that played it, and I said, let's go. And there was a bunch of actors and people from the crew that really wanted, and we were really excited to have the chance to go.
Great. In terms of acting, your heroes as actors, were they Italian or Hollywood or British?
Well, why choose? I mean, there's so many incredible actors that you can be influenced by or inspired by. So, of course, I started with the Italian ones, and there are so many. I'm talking about Mastroianni, Volonté, Gasman, Totò. I mean, I grew up with them.
He's more of a comic clown.
Yes, it was a clown. And then, of course, little by little, getting to know all of the great actors in the world. I mean, it's not just English or American. Of course, I really liked, as I said before, I belong to the first generation of people in Italy who had the chance to see original versions of movies. So we got the chance to hear to their real voices and to understand what they were doing. So when I was a kid, I watched movies for entertainment. Then when I decided I wanted to be an actor, I started to look at it in a more proper way and trying to understand the secrets of this work, if there's any. But and I remember I had this VHS that I used to playing still, and going back and forth and really breaking them to get the chance to understand how they were.
Which actor?
Well, De Niro, Pacino, Hoffman, of course, Marlon Brando, of course. But being a huge fan of Shakespeare, Laurence Olivier or Albertini, Derek Jacobi, Paul Scofield.
Yeah, you have a Paul Scofield look about you. Actually,
well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, it's one of the greatest actor we had the chance to see I had the chance to see him on stage too, so I was lucky enough. But even talking about stage, I remember seeing Anthony Sher and his famous Richard III.
The Richard III, yeah. There's that and The Merchant of Venice, the two.
Yeah, exactly. And Mark Rylance, still Javier Bardem. I mean, and actresses. I mean, it's not just actors.
It's true, actually.
Here we have one of the most wonderful actresses in the world. I think Kate Blanchett is definitely my inspiration, and there are so many. So in every actor, you can find something. It's as if in every human being. So if you watch the work carefully, without maybe being driven only by the technical aspect of it, but just as a simple viewer, you get to understand a lot. And sometimes you ask yourself, how did they do that? Yeah. But then in the end, I like watching movies, and I like to lose myself into movies. And then maybe you get back to watch them again, as we were saying, and try to sneak into their little secrets. But I love when I don't watch movies as an actor. I mean, I love being taken away by the stories.
That's what we're here for at Venice. Amazing that we can have a festival where we have the chance to disappear into movies.
Yes.
I'm going to have to go and do that myself.
Nice watch
right now. Thank you very much. You too. So let's disappear into movies. I really enjoyed disappearing into the world of Padre Nostro. Grazie, Pierre Francesco Favino. Wow, what a show this has been, no? I've really enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. I hope you're enjoying listening to it. Look, I think we've just got time to catch up with the director and producer of A Real Film Showdown. It's a documentary called Hopper Wells, in which all the film heads here absolutely lapped up. Of course they would. You know, a documentary about these two film mavericks. It's an intense conversation filmed between Dennis Hopper and Orson Welles interviewing each other. It was filmed nearly 50 years ago, but only being shown now. I caught up with its director, Philip Van Risma, to find out how he made it and to find out what these two maverick spirits would make of Venice and cinema today.
I mean, strangely, it's very topical. Talk about a timely film, even though it was made 50 years ago, even though the conversation was shot 50 years ago, let's put it that way. Just talking about...
I hope we're vibing a little bit of the Hopper Wells thing right here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's some of the strange, it's a little conversation that we're having here. We don't have a camera dancing around us.
But we're mavericks.
And we are mavericks. We don't have the gin and tonics. No. Those are an important ingredient in Hopper Wells. But it's a strangely timely film. And I think with both, I mean, Mosquito State, to me, it was reflecting on our current state of affairs geopolitically.
What makes you
have a political element?
Yeah, I see that with Mosquito State for sure. But with Hopper Wells, what makes you say that's relevant? Right
Civil rights. I mean, look what's going on in the States. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's the same debate. And what's the role of the artist in terms of their political view? How is your point of view more effective? Do you use it simply as a platform and you voice your views directly? Do you do so through your work? Not everybody's comfortable doing both, and so that debate's fascinating. I think that's a debate that everybody in the States is having, and I'm talking about the States in particular. So
I think it's spread around the world.
It's spread around the world, of course, but I think it's if we're looking at it at this point, it is the central debate outside of the pandemic. It is the civil rights issue in the U.S.
The other thing that it seems to me is very relevant, and it may be a hill of beans, but while you're here in a festival celebrating cinema, the longest continuous running festival in the world now, definitely. But it's definitely done it this year. The state of cinema seems to be something that they're both talking about. Wells having been through the studio system, bruised by it, Hopper establishing a new aesthetic, establishing a new maverick 70s feel. That seems to be something that we're in again right now, and certainly your films are doing, because you had a Netflix movie.
Yes.
So I'm intrigued as to where you are on that side of the debate and the future of cinema.
I mean, I love the theatrical experience. I think that there's no substitute for it. We obviously, even with Netflix, that was part of the equation. There was a theatrical release with it. It wasn't huge, but obviously it's such a niche film to begin with. Other Side of the Wind wasn't something that was going to play on 1,000 screens. But that theatrical experience and the shared experience is incredibly important. Obviously, the role of the festival for films like this, films that, let's just say, are specific and I think need festivals to be able to help promote them and to be able to experience it with an audience, to get the blessing of a festival that obviously, when you talk about a brand and the curators here, the programmers, Alberto, as tastemakers, it's that's a big part of it.
Were you more intolerant of did you have more kinds of movies you were against when you were a kid than you are now? I am. I'm getting to like more kinds of movies.
Well, it's so difficult to make movies that it's very easy never to have made a movie and to hate all movies except for a very few. But once you've made a movie, realize how much work is involved. I think almost anybody who gets any kind of movie at all made is really way ahead.
It's so hard.
Well, it's the editing gets to be.
But don't you think in some ways it's awfully easy?
I love the creating the idea. I love the shooting it. I love the casting of it. I love the doing. But when it gets down to the editing of it, it becomes like having a child and suddenly cutting its arms off and putting its eyes out and.
Because you miss the good things that go?
Yeah.
But
and also because it's so personal. I mean, it gets heavy.
I don't know. It seems to me that you can only make a movie by taking out all kinds of beloved things. Otherwise, it doesn't have any shape.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah, isn't all movie making, imagining it and realizing it and all that a sort of happy social event, and the really creative job is the dirtiest one. It's in an empty, dark room.
I think.
Is that what you mean by hard work?
No, I think the movies are made on the set, but they're later remade in the editing room. I mean, the editing's very important. There's no question about it.
What do you think that Orson Welles and Dennis Hopper would have made of the cusp that we're at now in the future of cinema, the theatrical experience, the COVID sort of taking a sterilized process to it, and Netflix having streaming platforms? What do you think they'd have done with it?
I don't know. I think Welles was always so receptive. I mean, it's you talk about somebody as a maverick being so far ahead of his time. It's hard to speak on behalf of him, but it's always a person who played with form and wanted his films to be seen by the biggest audiences. I think with Netflix, I was extremely fortunate. Beatrice Wells, I think spoke very eloquently about what she thought her father would have said, and she was extremely supportive of Netflix, and not only because of Other Side of the Wind. With the younger generation, it's we're talking about a generation that didn't really know Citizen Kane. So when the whole conversation about Wells starts, you're educating this generation or future generations. And they were able to also license a lot of other titles, so you did put together kind of a catalog. And Netflix is obviously for binging, right? Not that Wells movies are that bingeable. I think all of them, they're so challenging in and of themselves. But you can do your own little mini festival.
He looked like himself. He liked to binge.
Yes. Oh, ouch.
I mean, the best way of everything, of culture, of life, of drink.
I mean, he had a full life, and I think he loved to live. So absolutely, it's funny. It's obviously they're sitting there over dinner. Right, talking, and I think Orson, makes a little crack at it. It's funny just how fierce of a defender of Wells Hopper was, because the issue of his weight and the fact that he had become a little bit of a joke. And I read that Mustard interview with Hopper, and man, was he, he just said, "What the fuck are people doing? Do they not realize that this is the biggest giant?" I mean, to him, this is the person who set up what he had then followed with Easy Rider, which is to act, write, direct, produce. I mean, he followed the Citizen Kane model with Easy Rider. Orson had enough of a sense of humor to be self-deprecating that way.
They were also great cinematic artists, but they were both artists. Orson, famous drawer, Hopper, great photographer, also a great artist, great art collector. I think they came together quite... they didn't talk about it. I don't know if there's more in the conversation about that, but they obviously had that kindred spirit, even though, movies aside, they had an artistic...
They were just pure artists. Yeah. I think it's, no matter what. I think they live their life also in similar ways. They go well beyond that. I think in terms of their, career trajectories, or at least kind of starting out with, with talking about starting off with Citizen Kane and starting out with Easy Rider, two films that totally revolutionized the art of cinema. And then finding it difficult to work within the studio system, and you can just hear it in this. That's the strange dramatic tension of Hopper Wells, is that you know what's about to happen to Hopper with last movie.
Yes.
And you hear it there. It's like in every word. We're talking about editing, talking about, fighting the system. And it's Wells, does he see it? I don't know. But he went through the exact same thing with Touch of Evil. Constantly.
Shanghai as well. He was always fighting with the studios.
Fighting for his cut. And of course, both being, in a way, self-destructive.
Yes.
They could not get out of their own way. They had to have it their way, which, the films would have been very different. Talk about it being so autocratic.
Yeah.
Not allowing for room or zero compromise.
That's why I asked what would they have done with the newfound freedoms of Netflix, which I've never worked for Netflix.
Yeah.
But, the studios are difficult places right now, what with, they want franchises, or they want, superhero movies, or they want three-part. Whereas Netflix, from what I hear to certain documentary makers, they go, right, here's £2 million to £2 million quid, go make it.
I think that, with both of them as artists and, being given those freedoms, I suppose that they would have had those opportunities. They would have had way more opportunities. Yes, that was my experience with Netflix and with friends who have done films for Netflix in various capacities, be it as producers or directors, is that, it's go make your film.
Yeah.
And so that's incredible as an artist to be given that opportunity.
Will we be seeing this one on Netflix?
We'll see. I think nobody knew about this film until the festival announced it.
Oh, okay.
So we kept it a total secret, and so so distribution is just catching up. On many levels it would make sense, but it's until this film premieres, nobody's seen it. Right, and so we'll start here, and hopefully the reaction to it, which is what I'm gathering, is going to be very strong, and that Netflix.
I think people are going to be very fond of it.
Yeah, and I think Netflix is going to be interested.
Yeah, well, I wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Really nice to see you. Really nice to meet you. Congratulations on getting 2 films in the festival. I was greedy.
It's really. I should give one of them away.
It's Wellsian in
yes. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thanks very much. Well, I think that's a suitably filmy note on which to end. The thought of Hopper and Wells riding into the sunset, easy riders carrying the future of cinema side saddle with them. What will the future be? And I don't know. Venice asked questions and came up with some answers on how to get a major festival running in a pandemic. They did it, I have to say. I was pleasantly surprised. There was a lot of people about here. There's a lot of screenings, busy screenings. These cinemas here, the Grande takes 1,000, the Sala d'Arsena takes 1,500, and they were half filled. That's still 500 people and 700 people. The Pala Biennale had 800 people in it. So we're talking about big numbers here. There was a lot of chatter and general excitement about being back and working face to face. My first actual one-to-one interviews, in fact, of this whole Seen Anything Good Lately season, and I have to say it was great to see those faces, even if we couldn't, and shake hands and have physical contact. But thanks to all the guests who joined me and made this 77th Venice Film Festival and my edition of Seen Anything Good Lately such a fresh start and a fascinating show. And most of all, grazie Venezia, arrivederci tutti, see you all very soon indeed. Right. I think I can probably take my mask off now, right?